There we go. Good evening, interlocutors and labyrinthes, family, friends, and other acquaintances. Hi, everyone. I had a video pop up on another computer, so sorry about that. So there's a lot to talk about tonight. Welcome to Friday Night Coffee and Conversation. A lot going on this week for sure. So we had coffee. We had quite a bit of news. Hi, Anita. Boy, it's been quite a week. So let's start. I want to talk about a lot of things tonight. I apologize if I'm a bit of a mess. I'm kind of tired. It's been, it's just been that kind of a day. I had a whole list of things I do today, and I have done exactly one of them, this. So there you have it. You know how life goes. You plan to do one thing and something else happens, and you end up doing 19 different things that were not on your agenda. So then you have to put aside things that you thought you were going to do. That's how my day has been. So I've got my Mexican apple soda. I usually don't get this till Saturday when I go for tacos, but I had the day off work. So I did not, so I went for tacos today instead. Got my Friday coffee cup. And so I guess we'll start. I don't want to talk all night about the orders to mask when we go out in public, but I do want to talk about it some. Painted this morning, forgot what was going. See, that happens to me too. I get started on a project or an activity, and I just get so into what I'm doing, I can forget about anything else going on around me. Sometimes I even have to an alarm just to make sure I remember to on something else, right? But yeah, that happens to me all the time. That and a little bit of that's what happened to me today too. But I did end up going out today, which this heat just kills me. So when I got back, I've been a little lethargic since I went out. I'm kind of flush. Anyway, so it's really bizarre. Our governor this week, I don't know what you guys are doing up there in Colorado, but our governor on Monday decided, Monday or Tuesday, I think it was Monday. Anyway, he decided to go ahead and close all the bars, gyms, movie theaters, water parks, tubing facilities. There was something else on that list too. So he put a It was Monday, thank you. Yeah, so he put a full 30-day stop on all these businesses. And again, is encouraging everybody to wear masks anytime we're in public and can't distance, particularly if you're inside. Um, so when I went and got my tacos, I did wear a mask. Not Not my favorite. They're not comfortable, not convenient. They're distracting. It is annoying as heck. But if it's going to keep other people safe or even set them at ease and make them feel a little safer, I'm going to respect that. So inconvenient, but what's a little inconvenience there when there's so much at stake? We're getting over 3,000 new cases every day. We're just, I haven't even looked at the chart. We're keeping track, but I haven't even looked at the chart this week to know where we're at on our day average. It's just it's just a lot. There's a lot. I decided to stick my head in the sand and hide in my little cocoon for a few days. So I'm keeping up on some things and really trying to not let myself get worked up too much about it. Um, but yeah, that's where we're at with that. Our governor also, he's still not completely mandating, like you don't have to, um, like I don't think they're going to issue you a citation if you don't wear a mask, but they are encouraging people, and I think that's still up to um, local municipalities to decide how much they're going to enforce. I personally don't. I don't know. I just feel like I'm tired of not being able to go to the store or, maybe go have lunch with a friend. I would love to get my life back. Ours isn't either about masks. Yeah. Well, they're definitely encouraging people to wear them. And that's kind of where I stand on it as of today. And I've gone back and forth and I've got my opinions and I don't like them. But realistically, there's no harm. And if that's what it takes to get a grip on this and get life back, let's all do it so we can just get back to normal. The more we cooperate, the sooner we're going to get um, the sooner we're going to get that decline in cases and get be able to get more things open and back into life. There won't be any fairs here this year. Yeah, we're not having any either. It's like, how do we even have fun? Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what you think of as fun. For me, I I'm content going for a walk or hiding in my office and reading a book or doing some research online. I think the big thing is interacting. That's the hard part. I personally I'd love to go to the spa. And you're going to hear me say it over and over again because that's what I really want to do right now. I'd love to go out to eat. I'd love to go to the coffee shop. I'd love to go to the spa. None of those things are really an option, um, and I'm okay with it. Well, yeah, going to the fair would be fun, but think about how close people get to each other, and there's no real way um, to really protect yourself and distance properly. The sanitation just wouldn't be there. So, yeah, I mean, I know I want to go out and do those things too. The Renaissance Festival, actually, ours is in February and March, and they had to shut it down. Like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks in. I mean, they didn't even run the full time. Hang on a second. Yeah, well, I guess they did run part of the season, but COVID hit, and so um they had to shut down because there was no way to properly, keep people at a safe distance from each other and sanitize and um because the virus spreads from the little droplets of fluid that come out when we talk and sneeze and cough, and those little droplets land on things people touch. And, in an open setting like that, it's really hard to have that constant cleaning up and sanitation that we get. So, or that you can do in an organized, regulated setting, like in a restaurant. They come by and clean the tables um, and use disinfectant and things like that. You can't do that out or do it effectively out in a fair setting or at a rock concert or any kind of concert, I guess. So it's hard to do. What if the virus goes on for years? Well, and that's the thing that's scaring me is that maybe it will go on for quite a while because people are not complying with the simple things that could have prevented it from getting this bad. I really, honestly, truly do believe that if people had complied when the governors first started telling us all to stay home and to wear a mask if we had to get too close to each other, and the restaurants and bars had enforced distancing, limiting how many people were in the establishment, if people had done what was asked, I think we'd probably be back to normal by now. The problem is people felt like the rules didn't apply to them. We had all those protests. The states opened the businesses up way too early after we started to see that sharp increase. So if it goes on for years, we just have to get used to a new normal.
Anybody I know?
A couple people.
Oh, like who?
Well, the old cynic is over here asking me who's online here. A friend up in Colorado.
Oh,
And you realize that the entire world is going to be able to see this. So we want to keep the anonymity factor kind of intact, right?
anonymity?
Yes. The people who know us know us. The people who don't need to.
Exactly.
So you want to close that door again?
Why are you letting her do
I'm funny. Oh, and the youngster, he's on here too.
Really?
Yeah.
How much everyone?
The old cynic told me to tell everybody hi in case you couldn't hear him. He's over there standing in the doorway, shaking his head at me like, oh no, what are you doing now? Yeah, they should know not everyone listens. Yeah, but what I don't know what do you think they should have done? I mean, I just don't know. I think it's gotten so out of control that it's going to be hard to rein it in and get back to something kind of normal. I think we had a chance if people would have just voluntarily done a few things, and it wasn't even that big of an inconvenience, if you ask me. I mean, the hardest part, I think, was people not being able to go. But if you can't find other things to do with your time, like paint, take on a craft project, clean out the garage, take on some of the household projects that have been ignored. Um, get together with people online like we're doing now. I just feel like there's like people make excuses that are had a good idea. Yeah. Oh, I think I remember something about that. What did Snowden have to say? Yeah, this is the new normal. I'd like to get a little more of the old normal back, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. And maybe later we can come back around to this and talk about some conspiracy theories and uh, fun little things. But oh, I don't know what the answer is now. Super technical details, but essentially you have everyone with an opt-in with certain time. Okay. So you're talking about using technology to communicate in a secure way. Yeah. Oh, and releases the information to any. If you, huh? I don't know. That sounds kind of creepy, scary to me, but it's done in a way that, huh, interesting. If you pass someone, you would. Oh, oh, I see. Yeah, but just keep in mind, we didn't even have appropriate testing when this thing started. I can bore you. Yeah, please don't bore me with the technical details. Please. Mm, but still having some problems with our testing. And so I don't know. I would need to understand that. Yeah, no, I maybe we can have a private conversation about that later. That um, does sound interesting. The but again, the testing itself is questionable. So I don't even know where we stand with it. As far as uh, making improvements to the number of cases. But uh, I think everybody's got a choice to make. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask, when to wear a mask if you do choose to use one. And we can come back to this because there are a few, I do have some additional thoughts on it. Well, our current administration is more concerned with yeah, no, I agree. I agree. The, well, just like our own governor, I'm sitting here tracking, just independently, looking at the charts, watching it go up and up and up and up and up. And we're, let's see, March, April, May. So, we are several weeks into a sharp incline before he even acknowledges that the cases are going up and that we're running out of hospital room. He has one speech where he talks about how we're we're going to see a decline, or we started to see a decline, which is not true. We've never had a decline in Arizona. We had through a handful of days that were a few cases less than the day before, but they weren't all in a row. We haven't even had a steady decline ever since this started in Arizona. Yeah, and so I mean, everything is so reactive. Like Percepticide, I don't know if I ever had this conversation with you, um, but I'm sure you must have heard it by now. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you take time and do some preventative measures, Yeah, no beds, no room. We're having that same problem. We're something close to, I think, don't quote me on this because done, I haven't looked it up in the last few days, but I think we were getting close to 85, 90% full in our ICU units. And we are now, we've activated the crisis standards of care, which means hospitals and doctors have to choose who they're going to help with this and who they're not. Yep, the cases keep going up. And now the doctors are put in this horrible position because, that's kind of their whole job is to save people's lives and to treat people, and not to pick and choose who to treat. Their job, their Hippocratic oath is that they're going to help anywhere they can. And so I feel horrible for our medical professionals being put in this situation. In a country as wealthy and established as ours, there's no reason that this should even have to happen. So I am very frustrated, um, for people that are more heavily affected than myself. I'm spoiled. I don't mind staying home. I have my office. I'm fortunate enough to still, have people that I live with and can communicate with and a job. A lot of people are really struggling right now, a lot more than me, and not professionals that it's their job to deal with this stuff are struggling. I think protesting created it absolutely did. If you go look at any of the pictures that are online from any of the protests, people were right on top of each other, not distance. And again, I can go back and forth till the sky turns orange about how I feel about the masks, but standing right next to each other and not protected. So of course it was spread diseases. That's just common sense. The trouble is those people didn't think. There are a lot of people that don't think this is real. There are a lot of people who think that COVID isn't as big of a problem as people are making it out to be. I think we should, well, I think for the purpose of this conversation, I think we should keep that general and not get too bogged down in the details, because there have been a variety of different types of protests and different causes for them. And the activity in general has caused or contributed to an increase, regardless of why they're doing it. Because that is something I really don't want to talk about tonight. People are protesting quarantine are the ones not worrying about. Right. Okay. Fair enough. You're right. You're right. And had less care of social distancing. No, that's true. That's true. And that's what I was just saying, is there are a lot of people that just think this isn't anything at all. It's not that big of a deal. And The media is making too much of it. People are paranoid, whatever the case may be. They don't think COVID is that serious or that big of a deal. And they don't think that distancing is going to help. They don't think that distancing is doing any good and that there's no point to it. So I think that's part of what's got, I think that's part of it, is that people just aren't taking it seriously. They're caught up in their political opinions. It's this side's propaganda. It's that side's propaganda. It's the media. It's the conservatives. It's the liberals. It's whomever. And the bottom line is the cases still keep going up. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Yeah. So we can come back to this because I definitely have some conspiracy theories that we can play with. But a lot of other really big things happened this week too. Ghislaine Maxwell. Hello. And I hear rumor has it that she may talk. Although I'm a little concerned. I agree. And that's what our governor said, was to wear a mask if you can't distance. If you can distance, then I mean, if you're not getting close to people, like there's no point to wear a mask in your car or sitting in your backyard. But if you're going to be around people, you don't know if you might have picked it up and you could give it to someone. May not get sick as easy, but okay, clearly we're going to stay on this topic for a few minutes, for a little longer. So the thing is, when we talk, when we cough, my allergies, we sneeze, anything like that, we touch our face, droplets of our fluids spray out. I remember learning in I don't know, maybe second, third, fourth grade, early elementary school, that when you cough or sneeze, you're sending out germs like 50 feet away from you. And I don't know, there may be new information about that, just, drawing back on childhood. But the point is we spray out droplets all the time. And those droplets can land on other people or objects that other people are going to touch. Yeah, they spray out everywhere. And so here's how we're spreading. It doesn't matter, because if somebody touches something, that you have touched after touching your face, okay? I rub my eyes and then I'm touching the product at the grocery store. Somebody else comes along and they touch that product at the grocery store and then they touch their face. That raises their risk. So if we wear a mask, we're not spraying those germs out as far or as quickly. It mitigates the velocity at which we spray, which reduces the risk of passing it on. Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of where I land. I don't like it. I'm being honest. I only put it on before I go into a building, take it off as soon as I come out, hold my breath if I pass by somebody, keep my mouth closed. But if now I don't know what it's like up there, but here we actually have businesses telling you if you want to come in here, you're going to have to wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, you can't be here. And so, and that's their right. It's their business. They can ask you to if they want to. For me, again, I don't feel like it prevents anything 100%. It's inconvenient. It's not comfortable, but it's exactly that. It's only inconvenient. It is not a big hindrance on my life. So if it makes other people feel safer, I can do it for the 10 minutes I'm going to spend inside the taco shop. I can do it for the 5 minutes I run into the UPS store. And that's where I stand on it. Is it's not that big a deal. I don't like it, but there's a lot of things in life I don't like that I have to put up with. It, it's not it's not permanent. It's not something I have to do all day every day. If I need to wear a mask to run into the UPS store, I will. It's fine. It is not a big deal to me. It's frustrating that there's even prolonged. I know. I I don't know. I think people are just frustrated. But if people would just do it, it would mitigate the situation and maybe we could all get back to our lives. If people had volunteered and oh, I agree. I agree. Um, it is completely from a place of what about products that other people pick up that yes, exactly. The germs would be on that. And that's part of the point. That's why they want us to wear masks so that we're not spraying those germs all over stuff other people are going to be touching. That's one of the bigger reasons they want us to do it. I think they don't know how to phrase it or tell us that, but that is the one big benefit to wearing a mask that I can see is that spraying we're spraying the germs less And at this point, we're fortunate. COVID is not airborne yet. It's in our fluids. The concern is that it will mutate and become airborne. That's the scary part, because if that happens, if that happens, then God help us all. Okay. We can come back to this, but I do want to talk about, oh, my combs, yay. I do want to talk about Jeffrey Epstein's friend, Ghislaine Maxwell. And yes, I'm fiddling with my hair. Sorry, guys. But she was arrested yesterday, and authorities thought she might have left the country. And she was a really big part of his shady dealings with young girls. You want to talk about her suicide that is scheduled? Yeah, exactly. I know that I heard that they put her on a suicide watch. No, and I don't think he meant to call you specifically selfish. We're all frustrated. But I think it'll be over when we get around to get people on board with taking precautionary measures, and we can slow this thing down. When it'll be over, when we can slow this thing down, and that's going to take people cooperating. The more people protest and act in defiance, the more this is going to continue. So it's really important that we all do our part so that we can get past this. Because if everybody would have just cooperated in the first place, it would have taken 3 weeks, 4 weeks of staying home, keeping distance, but people didn't want to do that. And here in Arizona, we had big protests. We had people out rioting and looting at the mall over having to keep their distance, and businesses being having to limit their hours and some of the restrictions. This is the reason that I think he said people were selfish. And it's because the people that are protesting are doing so and not complying with what's been asked because they don't want to have to change anything. They want to keep doing what they want to do without any regard to the consequences. I mean, we're blaming the government spent its money arming police to the teeth. I know, but I told you I really don't want to get, rather than using the bailout. Looks like I may having some connectivity issues. And I understand that, but I really don't want to get bogged down in specifically the protests. I really just want to talk about how it's affecting us and what we can do to at least make our lives a little better while all this is going on. Okay, well, plus I want to keep it all friendly too. It's unfair to say that the average person didn't comply. Well, I know you say that, but a lot of people, and the average person maybe did, but there were a lot of people that went to the bars, did not distance, didn't take any kind of precautions, and were it was more important to go to the bar and get drunk with their friends than it was to protect their vulnerable family members by maintaining that distance. Inability to allocate funds to proper places. Well, yeah, I mean, there's that whole I mean, there's a lot that can be said about that. Um, well, no, I don't think that that's the only thing, but it is a big thing. And when I go to the grocery store, I see a lot of people wearing masks, and I see a lot of people standing really close to each other having conversations, not wearing masks, not distancing. Yeah, I mean, contribute. That's what I'm saying is it's an example. It's not the only or biggest cause. It's an example of one of the several things that's happening. Oh, I'm hot. It's one of several things that's a contributing factor. But the larger problem is the burden of, yeah, I'm heavily on the working class. Well, but at the same time, it's all of us that are being affected. We have to take some responsibility. Yeah, that's what they're doing here too. They're blocking off every other table. Um, Restaurants aren't even having dine-in service at all. Most restaurants are still doing curbside pickup. Um, there was a local chain, and I can't remember the name. I don't know who it was, but they actually closed their dining rooms and said they're doing curbside pickup only. I saw the owner of another restaurant. I think he's got 2 or 3 locations, and they'll let you sit at one of their tables, but they're packaging food to go. They're not putting it on a plate and serving you with silverware. Everything is packed up to go. So realistically, I mean, the best answer right now is that we continue to distance, wear masks where it's appropriate. And remember that we all have family members, or I think most of us have family members, even if they don't live with us, um, or those friends that are in a higher risk group. And so my age group might be relatively healthy and we might be able to get it and recover. But if we do get and pass it on to somebody who has diabetes or heart disease, those people might not recover. And that's where I stand, is I don't want to be the person who gets it and I'm just fine and I give it to someone I care about and they die. I don't want to be that person. It is much more important to me that I don't get it and I don't pass it on to somebody else if I do happen to get it. With they don't have sugar on the tables anymore. Yeah, well, it's inconvenient and it sucks, but they probably also have fewer people working in the kitchen, fewer people to wait on the tables. All of that stuff has to be sanitized every single time somebody sits down at that table and eats. When they leave, everything on that table has to be sanitized. So it's a lot of work for a lot fewer people, which is definitely contributing to the quality of service we're going to get going out. And there's a lot of foods that, well, a while back there was talk of a chicken shortage, but I think that kind of went by the wayside. But that's the thing, is this is, people don't understand the web of interconnection. Everything we're doing affects every aspect of our lives and other people's lives. And I think that's just too big, too much for most people to handle. Meat industry workers are among the larger demographics affected. That's right, they are. Like me, you have diabetes. Exactly. Exactly. So if you have diabetes or heart disease, or God forbid, a respiratory illness like asthma or COPD, it's, you need to be very careful, because if you get it, it's going to be a lot harder on you than it's a big deal. And I think, and for me, that's where distancing is important, and wearing a mask if I'm asked to is important, because I don't want to be the person, regardless of how I feel about all of this, I don't want to be the person who gives it to somebody else and that person dies. It is not too much to ask that I have a little bit of inconvenience if it could mean saving people's lives. Not everybody feels that way. Not everybody understands how a decision we make affects every aspect of our lives. And I mean, some people just can't handle that. They can't handle the pressure of it. So it's just it's a tough situation all the way around. So um yep, up and up and up and up. So if everybody was to do what we're supposed to or what is best for us and to keep a distance and to just try to hang in there a little bit longer, it's going to take 10 to 15 days before we see the results of starting to wear masks and distance. It takes 10 to 14 days before we start to see results of that. So, what I do today, or what we all do today, if everybody was on board, we're not going to see the positive results of that for 2 more weeks. In quarantine, yep. Is buckle in because it's going well into next year. I think it could. I think it could. Yeah, but let's talk about. I keep getting distracted and coming back to that, but let's talk about something else. Fort Hood in Texas. All the crazy things that keep happening in Fort Hood. We've had just this year alone, more. But the most recent one to make big headlines is Vanessa Guillen. She's been missing since April, and it was her day off, and she got called into work. She's a soldier, and she's been stationed at Fort Hood. She got called into work and was basically never seen again. So they found her remains. They've arrested 2 people, and a third person has committed suicide over this. And she had apparently been sexually harassed. The commercial, was a suspect, and probably would have been arrested and charged if he hadn't committed suicide. But he's dead. Now we're stuck with the 2 remaining people. But Fort Hood has a long history of big problems. Now, my dad was in the Army, and he would have been career Army long term. When it was, he had been in Japan and Vietnam. I think when he came back to the States, he was stationed at Fort Carson. Um, and when it came time to get out or re-enlist, he was going to re-enlist, and I was really little. So, I have this information because it was told to me by my parents, because I was really little. But my dad was going to re-enlist. My mom told me that he didn't. He got out. They wanted to send him to Fort Hood. And even back then, Fort Hood had such a bad reputation that my tough guy dad didn't want to go there. He wanted no part of it and decided to get out of the military. Then he went and drove a truck. But Hood has had problems. I mean, this is nothing new. There is some really shady stuff going on there. And so, this week with Vanessa Guillen, we're learning the big cover-ups. Her lawyer, man, I'm impressed with her family's lawyer. Not her lawyer. She's clearly no longer with us. But her family, the lawyer for the family, people. Yeah, okay, seriously. We are talking about a military installation with fake security cameras. Please, somebody explain this to me. Yeah, they said they weren't active. How? We are talking national security here. Well, I've seen reports both ways, that they were fake or that they weren't active. Either way, it's still a matter of national security. How can there be cameras, like all of them? It wasn't one camera that was malfunctioning, or one camera that was broken on one part of the base and another one way, far away somewhere else. We are talking multiple cameras that are just simply useless. How? This is a military base. How is this even allowed to be a thing? Forget personal security, but national security. It just doesn't. That place is so shady. So shady. And every time I hear a story that comes out of there, I just always think of my dad getting out of the military because he didn't want to go there. it is possible they are active and that they are lying. Yeah, I agree. I think that is entirely possible. Or that they were deactivated at certain times or temporarily. You know what I mean? Have a good night. No, it's getting late. It's almost 10 o'clock there. I understand completely. Sleep well, my love. I will be in touch soon. Have a good night. Thank you for joining us. It's always good to see you here. So, yep, I agree with you. I think it's some crazy, crazy stuff. So now, oh, let's go back to Ghislaine Maxwell. Um, well, no, I'm sorry. One more thing on Vanessa Guillen. I'm glad her family's got a lawyer, and I'm glad that they're actually investigating and have somebody in custody talking about it, because that thing's been making me crazy. It's so many cases, so many missing people. Another soldier that went missing last year, I think last year, either late 2018 or 2019, he was due to get out, completely disappeared just before he was getting out of the military. And then they found him um, during this investigation, and he was also at Fort Hood. Like, what is going on? You doubt much will come from which? Ghislaine Maxwell? Yeah, well, that's a tough call because it's a military installation. So maybe, who knows? I don't know. I was ready to throw my hands up in the air because the one guy's dead. They're certainly not going to get any recourse involving him. I'm hoping that this at least gets a congressional investigation to get Fort Hood either straightened out or shut down. They want, I agree. I agree. That place is shady, and this is nothing new. I mean, it has a long, long history of having a very bad reputation. So, uh, I I don't know. Everything's making me crazy today. I'm grumpy. But to be honest, I am happy that at least something has come out of it. They've they've found they found remains been able to go back and say and demonstrate that the shadiness isn't just rumors. There is one question that keeps coming up, and I've heard about it from multiple sources. That the woman they arrested, yeah, oh yeah, the family wasn't even notified. It's terrible. Oh no, they have no interest. They're trying to cover their butts because it's not just her. There's a whole series of other things that they're trying to cover up for too. And how did that guy clean that arms room in 40, was it 42, 43 minutes? As messy and bloody as it would have to been? There's no way, even with help. No cleaning supplies, no cleaning solutions. Not, it's crazy. It's just flipping crazy. I'm gonna continue fighting it because they have so much to hide on that base. It just gives me a headache even thinking about it. Wow, we've been on here for an hour and 15 minutes already. Well, an hour and 13 minutes, but still. Yeah, even if it's uncovered. I don't know. I'm really with you. I'm hoping they get it. I hope they at least get congressional investigation because there is a lot of crazy going on. But I'm glad that this one is getting some media attention because a lot of these, you hear a headline, you hear a story for a couple of days, maybe a week, and then it goes away, right? So this one, oh man, allergies. Anyway, this one, the families kept the story going, and a lot of it hasn't been forgotten, and it's been kept going enough that an actual investigation is sort of happening. At least attention being brought to it, you know? It just, the whole thing makes me sad, frustrates me. You have people being more vigilant. Okay, that's true. That is true. And I will say that is something good coming out of some of the stuff that's happened. At least some of these stories are getting attention, and hopefully it can shed light on more. No, I think you're right. I think it's all related. And you know I feel this way. But I'm going to say it again. Everything is interconnected. Whether we think it is or not, whether we make the connection consciously, whether we figure it out or see the connections consciously or not, everything affects everything else. And if you look at it and go back to the cause and effect, you can see. You can see it if you want to. You just have to trace it back the right way. But I am a firm believer that everything is connected. Intersectional. Well, yeah. Yeah, it exactly. Intersectionality. But it's like COVID is related to Black Lives Matter, which is related to everything's related to each other. There's a relationship. And that's the other thing I think people aren't seeing or aren't thinking about. And we'll get back to COVID because I have a conspiracy theory. And I just want to play with this for fun because because all of this stuff is so serious that just maybe it could be fun to it could be good, a good stress reliever. Yeah, imagine to be that person right now. You're going to be that person right now. Okay. Well, I'm going to play and just say the common denominator in all of these situations. Well, and you might have a very good point, which note, I think you're going to like my theory. I think you're going to like my conspiracy theory then. So, as long as I can remember, there have been people complaining about jobs being lost to automation and all of, and if you read 1984, you know, Big Brother, controlling everything, thought police, all of that. I think I mentioned another conspiracy theory I had in a different live chat, but today's theory came from my trip to the grocery store. Now, I know some people are talking about the one political party or another trying to keep this thing going to prevent people from voting. I think, okay, I don't really know that I think this, but for the sake of the discussion, the theory is that the powers that be are keeping this going to push us more and more towards automation at the grocery store, at restaurants, um, other other functions in society, to automate as much as possible, to limit human contact as much as possible, for one of two or maybe both reasons, as follows. Reason number one: to minimize the number of employees and save money. And they're using this as an excuse to further that agenda, keeping it going as long as possible to get people and keep people on board with the idea that we want things to be automated for our safety. Number two, there are bits of that that are correct. Yes, but into number, oh, of course, it's a little wacky. That's why we call it a conspiracy theory. But reason number two for wanting to keep this going goes back to big other mind control, thought police, all of that. Because the more this goes on, and as we were talking about earlier, the new normal, the more this goes on, the more need more coffee. Sorry. My throat gets dry and I lose my voice. The more this goes on, the more we get used to it. The more we get used to not having that direct interaction, the less we will, the more we will convince ourselves we don't need that direct interaction as much, keeping us apart from each other as a great big mind control scheme to basically keep us from building those interpersonal connections and relationships, and keeping us from getting together and figuring it all out. Okay, capitalism is, yeah, absolutely. But taking it away from capitalism a little bit, I want to take it more into a behavioral control, that they're trying to keep us. You absolutely can't talk about automation of the labor force discussing the economic system. Well, I absolutely can, because I expressed it as one reason behind the purpose of keeping this going. the the economic system absolutely is worth thinking about and is part of it, but I'm trying not to get that deep into it because there's other aspects that are also involved that I think from a psychological aspect that I think are equally important. And it's not just about, on this theory, it's not just about economics, it's about um, what's the term? The world domination is what comes to mind. It's not, I don't know that it goes that far. I mean, we could blame it all on reptilians, if we want to keep going. But but the point of the theory is that for multiple reasons and combinations of reasons, that there's a a bigger agenda involved in keeping this whole thing going. And I think that for the sake of playing whack job conspiracy theorist, that it could be related to keeping people from communicating effectively and building those tight relationships that allow people to discuss intimately their thoughts and feelings about these things. Because if people figure out what's really going on, it could be bad for the powers that be. I mean, our economic system and government are intertwined. Oh, absolutely. The way people in power gain more power is by, well, it's also by psychology and manipulation. It's by convincing us, the consumer, that we have a choice, that we're doing what we want to because we want to do it, despite the fact that we're being manipulated at every turn and being convinced that it's our own idea to participate in something we know isn't good for us. So, I mean, if you want, and that was the whole point why I just wanted to have a little fun with it and play a little 1984 here. Because there's actually a lot of theories about it. I mean, it could go into, I mean, we could get seriously sci-fi and all Orphan Black and get into injections and cloning, and I mean, we can take this pretty far. Mm. Oh, I agree. Um, We watched this other movie called The Last Enemy, a British film, and it gets some of the stuff in it really resembles a lot of what's going on. I recommend checking it out. But it is 9 o'clock and we've been on here for an hour and a half. So I am going to say goodnight because I'm losing my voice. I had fun. Thank you for hanging out. Oh, look, we can make custom emojis. I have to play with that sometime. Figure out how to do that. But anyway, have a good night. I am going to go ahead and sign off. I will talk to you very soon. Thank you so much for the chat. I needed this tonight, and I hope it helped you too. So I will talk to you soon. I love you. Good night. Maybe? Why won't it let me? See, they're watching. It won't let me. Will not let me sign off.